So now we are looking into what exactly is the practical way in order to complete a particular chapter. In our current scenario, we are looking at SCMP and we are looking at this chapter called pricing decision. If I have to complete this chapter, because this is not there in my syllabus, I don't even remember it. So if I have to complete this chapter from a layman's perspective, let's say our coaching is also not done or partially done, or you're not able to understand something, what exactly is the best way? So I would always start with the learning outcomes on page 1. What exactly is ICAI expecting me to learn from this chapter? Now, there are 3 aspects which I was given. What are the factors that influence the pricing of a product or a service? So the name of the chapter is in sync with this. It's saying pricing decision, which means how do I decide what should be the pricing? Now here it says, what are the factors that influence the pricing of a product or a service? Okay, factors that influence the pricing of a product or a service. Before I would try to look into the answer, I want to think about it. What are the general factors which might affect the pricing of a product or service? Can I get some quick responses? Whatever you think, whatever comes to your mind, what do you think? You don't have to think from the SCMA perspective. Generally, what do you think are the factors? Give me some factors. Okay, demand, supply, whatever it is. What else? Taxes, duties. Okay, fine, right? So what I'll normally do is I'll just write down the points. Whatever I feel, I normally write down all the points, whatever I believe. For example, let's say you said demand, supply, let's say cost of the product, let's say availability, need, urgency. For example, vaccine in COVID. If somebody wants to find a vaccine in COVID, it's not just about costing, right? It's not just about the regular structure which you look at. And sometimes when you need something in urgency in the next 1 hour, 2 hours, it depends on the location also. Water at an airport versus water somewhere else. So these are all random things. These are all random things which you normally get. So once you write it down, you will be able to understand what is your basic view. You should have this conversation. It looks like it takes more time, but it actually takes less time. So this is the first thing which I would do if I'm starting from scratch. If my faculty has already given me insights, then I would know. But I'm telling you the most effective way to complete something on your own. Okay. So let's say this is exactly what you can write it down whenever you do it, and don't worry about keeping the book neat or clean. The well-read books are not very neat, so you can buy a new book if you want to save it, but the whole point is you should have the ability to use your book and pen parallelly. Okay, so this is how I would start. Next, calculate price from a given strategy using a cost plus and relevant cost model. Okay, so I need to understand what is a cost plus model and what is a relevant cost. Now if I talk about cost plus, I'll probably do the cost sheet. For example, I would arrive at a cost plus something, some profit margin, whatever. This is clear for me. I do not understand what is relevant cost. If I think about what is relevant cost, what could be relevant cost, I don't know. So there is a good chance that I may not be able to solve a sum linked to relevant cost in the exam. There is a chance. Cost plus is already clear to me. It is there in my head. If I'm not able to remember relevant cost, there is a chance that I may not be able to do it. Now evaluate different pricing strategies. Now you tell me what could be the different pricing strategies. How would you, again, you need not know what exactly is the chapter asking you. So what could be the different pricing strategies which you might think of? Share some quick responses. What could be the different pricing strategies? You already saw right now, it's already given cost plus or cost based. Relevant costing is there. You can pick that up. Sometimes in the exam also, you can use your common sense where you can pick up the answer from the question itself. What else? Based on competitor. Okay, again, this need not be correct. Based on competitor. Again, value based. For what I could think of is value based pricing. What is the value you're offering based on that? So there are different ways. Or penetration pricing in the initial level. So once you do this, your brainstorming is done. You will be open to know what is there. Okay, this is the most important part. Always start with a clear-cut learning outcome. So this is something which you should do. First step. Now let's go to the second one. Now, once this is done, what should I do? You tell me if I have to complete this 39 pages chapter in the shortest possible time. Once this is done, what is the next thing which I should be doing? What is the next thing I should be doing once I understand the learning outcomes? I want some quick responses. What is the next thing I should do? Index mapping is ideally done before this. Index mapping should be done at the beginning of the book itself, not to the specific part. You should do it. Okay, a lot of people are saying skimming and chapter overview. Now I'll tell you what I would do. So this is how I prepared. Whether you call, if people ask me, why did I clear the Age of 21? Not because of my hard work, definitely not because of my hard work alone. So I would look into this. Outrightly, I'll jump to the last. Outrightly, first page first, and I'll go to the last page. Why do you think I came to the last page? Can anyone tell me why did I come to the last page? Why did I come to the last page? What am I looking for? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So in the expectation, ICA is saying we will try to help you understand what are the various pricing models, difference between cost-based pricing and I would say relevant cost. So it has given something, but I have to trust it, right? Is it right? If I learn only those 3-4 things, would it be fine? Learning outcomes are very simple. They give just your 2-3 lines, right? So I need to know what exactly is the reality. So the reality strike is question, because at the end of the day, you should be able to answer a question from this chapter called pricing decision. How would you know whether you'll answer or not, whether you will be able to answer or not? To look at the question directly. So now let's look at the question number 1. So it talks about there are certain set of questions. There are certain set of questions which are linked to, I would say, product and pricing and product lifecycle. Okay, pricing is there, but in the expectation, nothing has been mentioned about product lifecycle. So if you remember, I don't remember reading this word. Am I right? I did not remember this word called product lifecycle in the expectation page. So which means that, okay, question mein to I have to understand something about product lifecycle also. So this is one more word which I have to remember, which I'm not very clear. So this is what I would do. Next, I'll quickly look into the question. So, okay, this is something ISO certified company. Okay, we are also ISO certified. Nice. And I look into whatever it is. Then it is talking about I'm in the introduction stage of its life cycle. If you look at these 2 points, it is talking about product life cycle. It is talking about introduction stage. So probably what is obvious to me, okay, introduction stage is one of the stages in product life cycle. Even without knowing what are the stages, it is very clear. This is exactly how I keep my information building. Okay, I understood this. Now, what exactly are they asking me? Identify necessary strategies. So it is linked to the original question. It is asking me to take a decision on the right strategy. So of course, pricing decision is there. Now explain the reason the changes to the unit selling price that could occur when the software moves from its introduction stage to growth stage. Okay, which means there could be a set of questions. There could be a set of questions based on how do I price at different stages of the life cycle. So I need to know pricing strategy. So I need to know the pricing strategy. I also have to know how do I customize my pricing strategies to life cycle. If I have to know that, I have to know what are the various stages. I don't know about various stages, but right now I can see there is introduction stage and there is something called growth stage. There could be something which is more or less than this. So by reading this question, just by looking at this question, I was able to know the potential range of questions or potential possible questions. So one set of questions will come from how do I decide the right pricing strategy at various stages of the product life cycle. So which means the same strategy could be used, but again, if the stage is changing, I have to change my pricing strategy. So this is exactly what you have to be very clear about. There is a possibility that ICI might confuse you based on the stage. What could go wrong? So your pricing strategy is right, but stage is wrong. That is exactly how ICI might convince you to pick up a particular pricing strategy which looks theoretically right, but which is not suited to the stage. how many of you are getting some insights? Are you able to capture? Now, some of you should be able to even think about a question which has been asked. Making sense? You should be able to think about the mistakes which you might have done, where a part of the question is right, but second part of the question is wrong because you have been trapped. People call it trap questions. Right. So this is what I could infer without even opening the first page of the book, only by going to the top and bottom. Let's look at what next. So there's one more question linked to the pricing and product lifecycle. The first question is simple and basic. I think there is one more question based on that. Now, second question, there is a lot of information. So what I would understood is, so if I have to pick up the quicker point, so you'll also learn how to read a question fast. So that is exactly what you can capture. So one is I see footwear industry, multiple locations, and it is talking about reviewing its product range and enhancing its existing products by developing new models. Okay, so it is trying to increase the product range. So it is to expand the product range. Done. So this is the capacity. Always highlight numbers. And product comfort was in this. It was about the maturity stage. Okay. Now, in the previous question, I noticed that in terms of the product life cycle, there is something called growth. I could remember growth stage. Now it is talking about maturity. Probably I don't know whether growth comes first or maturity comes first. Probably because if you're new, you may not know it. It's totally fine. So this is how you keep mapping information from the initial set of questions. So it talks about variable cost of manufacturing is 750, standard cost, standard R. Okay, you understood all of this. So you looked at all of this. Okay, this is what is the range of information given. So what is the next thing which they're trying to ask based on this range of information. So if I'm looking at the actual question which is being asked, advise which are the above 5 selling prices should be charged for a product comfort in order to maximize its contribution to the maturity stage. Once again, it's a reverse order. So here we're talking about stages, right? We're talking about stages for maturity stage. So they're freezing the stage here. Now, what are the different pricing models? You need to evaluate and decide what is the best price or what is the best price point. I would call it price point. So one is there is a particular price point and you can look at various stages, or the stage is fixed. For the same stage, what are the various price points? Effectively, once again, we are talking about product life cycle versus pricing. So it is differential pricing at different product life cycle. The question is also linked to the same. Calculate the number of units to be produced of product export in order to utilize the spare capacity from the above selling price. So this could be slightly complicated. Now this is very clear from what we did. So this initially, if I'm looking at it for the first time, okay, I need to think about it. Okay, there is something which I have to calculate. Okay. Now here it is talking about advice, it is talking about calculate, it is talking about compare, it is talking about explain. So in one question, there are multiple components. So this takes time, this takes some bandwidth. So when you're talking about explain is theoretical question. It's a theory-based question. So this is something which you can answer. Let's say this question is divided into 5, 5, 5. If I have to start answering it, if I know this, I'll answer this part so that I'm already done with 5. Next, it is asking me to compare penetration and skimming price models during the introduction stage using product technique. So if it's a general answer, now I'll explain this. So when you're looking at a particular, I would say, question, in this case, they're mapping everything to this particular product. So unless you arrive at this, unless you map it, it would be difficult to answer this or this. In some cases, where it's a purely theoretical question, you can pick up any particular question and you can answer them first. In this case, it would be a bit difficult because it is asking us to illustrate. It's not just asking about theory. It is asking us about all of these numbers. So unless you can crack this part A, you may or may not be able to do this. There's a chance that there could be a hack, but this is how it is. Now, when you're choosing your first question, choose a question which has independent bits. A is different, B is different, C is different. So that even if you don't know A, you can still crack bit B and bit C. How many of you understood this? Now I'm talking about choosing the question. Here, everything is linked. If you solve A, P and C can be solved very fast. But if you're not able to solve A clearly, these are linked questions. So out of 15, it will be hard for you to attempt these two questions if this is not solved. How many of you understood this? Okay, when you're tracking this in your exam mistake tracker, please see if you can pay attention to this. Again, I'm spending good amount of time. That's totally fine. You have enough time. CA, the paper can be completed in 2 or 15 minutes if you have this kind of clarity. Now, where would the time go wrong? You think that you want to write this, then you realize that you cannot write this unless you write this. Then you realize that you cannot answer this. So the whole time goes waste. Okay. So this is one more question. And also, how do you answer a particular question? We just looked into it. Now let's go into the next part. Here it is talking about profit maximization model. So far we looked into product life cycle. So far we looked into what exactly are the pricing strategy. Now it is clearly and specifically talking about profit maximization. Okay. So profit maximization. Now, how would I maximize profit? So can somebody tell me what could be the formula where I can apply this? Like if I talk about how do I maximize profit based on the information which we gathered so far, how would we maximize profit in this case? What should come to my mind? Yes. So what pricing model might suit this? What would be the pricing model which might suit profit maximization based on what we read, not based on what you took coaching and all initially, based on the last 10-minute discussion? What do you think would be a right pricing strategy? Or what do you think, how do you determine if you can maximize your profit? Okay. Okay. See, now we're understanding. Ujjwala says relevant cost. Ragini says cost plus method. Same question, same explanation. Different students get different perspective. Now you have to think about why you are thinking so. Ujjwala, can you tell me why did you say relevant cost? Ragini, can you tell me cost plus? I want both of you to respond. What is the reason for choosing relevant cost and what is the reason for choosing cost plus method? Please type that. Both Ujjwala and Ragini. Okay, let them work on this. So this is something which you look at. So when you look at a heading or a question, you should be trying to understand what exactly is the way to maximize profit or how do I do that? So that is something which you have to, your mind has to keep thinking. So यहाँ पे तो they are given multiple numbers. So one, it is talking about unit quotation price in the particular company for the financial year, unit quotation price of wagon that will like to emerge with the digital manager set quotation prices, and they have given a particular formula, and he is asking recommend appropriate pricing strategy including the E-class bogies. So in this you may not be able to read much. It's all given, a lot of numbers are given. So you'll realize that okay, not only pricing, I have to figure out how would I find the right profit maximization model. Okay, so this is how you can think about the next step. And Ujjwala replied, because we are able to use unused capacity and try to maximize profit using resources plus. Okay, fair enough. Look, whatever is your background. So this is one more type of question which you can think of. Now, coming back to the pricing methods, what are the various methods of pricing? We looked into the learning outcomes, point number 3. So it talks about some information and it talks about analyze the above situation and determine the best course of action. And once you go through this, probably read the question once again and immediately look into the answers. You can actually start looking into the answers at this junction before even go into the, I would say, regular question bank, or I would say regular chapters. So you looked into the question, try to go through the questions once again and see what exactly are the answers. And when you are solving it, please learn it. Don't just skim it, learn it. As if it's okay, even if you do not understand the theory, even if you skip the initial part, if you look at it, it will be very clear. If you look at the question and if you read the answer, you'll be able to understand 90% even if your coaching is not done. I'm repeating it. If you look at the question, if you pay some reasonable attention, if you look at the answer, you will be able to understand even without coaching. You've already done your intermediate. You're almost a chartered accountant. So please have that respect for your own knowledge. You'll definitely understand. Don't blindly think about it. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is go through this process. For one chapter, spend 1 hour for active learning. After this 1 hour, you decide. Do you want to look at coaching or do you want to directly solve problems or do you want to look at some notes? I totally get it. But the basic or initial effort has to happen. So for each and every question, it's very, very clearly given, right? What exactly is the selling price? These are the various options. And if you see, it's very simple formula. Number of sales, selling price per unit less variable cost, and then you find the contribution, total contribution. Very simple and straightforward. And depending on the contribution which you have arrived, probably they'll build the subsequent points where we looked at it, right? So the subsequent points when we looked at it, initially the base has been arrived, and then you can complete question number 2, question number 3, all of that. And you're coming to this particular, I would say, question, we looked at B and C. It is largely theoretical, but it is asking you a specific question in relation to what you might arrive based on the point number A. And then they have explained it further. So stages, we looked at introduction stage, we looked at growth stage, and then maturity. I think these are the 3 stages. One stage which is not covered is decline stage. But in the question itself, much before coming to the answer, we already found introduction stage, we already found growth stage, you already found maturity stage. So this is the fastest way. This is the fastest way to learn the most important points. Then you can think about the decline stage. Similarly, you can complete looking into the answers. Okay. So by spending, I think we spent around 15 minutes here. So 15-20 minutes, you will be able to understand what are the expectations. You can go back, explain the factors that will influence the pricing of a product, calculate price from a learning given strategy using cost plus and relevant cost, various pricing strategies. We looked into all of that, right? So both a basic idea mil gaya. Now, chapter overview is very important. Initially, you can get started with the chapter overview. So it's talking about 4 or 5 aspects. One is what exactly is theory of price. Now it's talking about profit maximization. There is a particular question about profit maximization, and what exactly is a way about different marketing. I would say different pricing in different markets is what it is. It is talking about price adjustment. This sounds interesting for me. Okay, not just price determination. It's talking about price adjustment also, and it's talking about price sensitivity. So all of this are like initial pricing and further pricing. It's like initial public offer, further public offer, initial pricing and further pricing. What is further pricing? Adjusting the price according to the needs and the feedback from the customers. Now methods, competition based, cost based, value based. There are 3 methods which has been given. And pricing in periods of recession, pricing below. There are some cases where, like in terms of the situation, how would you change your pricing strategy? And in terms of new, we looked at regular products, new products when you want to launch into the market, penetration skimming, you already know what they could be because you experience them an end consumer. And these are the overall, I would say, metrics. And I would definitely pay some attention to the definition of the pricing. A pricing decision is one of the most crucial and difficult decisions that a firm has to take. Totally fine. So if it is difficult for the firm, it is difficult for you also because it involves certain amount of complexity, and you basically go through the theory of price. So at this junction, I would have got 20% clarity of what this chapter is going to be instead of randomly waiting that 4-hour, 5-hour lecture to complete and see what are the range of information. I would be able to get the basic and initial quality about how I can get started. Once it is done, what I would do is I'll go and see if there is summary of the chapter. Most of the chapters in many books, they'll give chapter summary. Yes. I'll immediately go through the chapter summary. So once I looked at the expectations, questions, and the first or second page, then I'll go into the chapter summary. I'll first try to learn everything. Like it's not just looking at it. I'll spend good amount of time, probably 1 more hour in trying to learn this. I should be able to remember this. So what is chapter summary? It is the top 10%. I would say A+++ priority. What is chapter summary? If you don't have, it's like executive summary. The content is same. If you don't have 1 hour, if you have only 10 minutes, please read this. This is executive summary. So I would definitely go through it and spend some amount of time. If you complete this summary, in the first 1.5 hours, which you would have spent, almost 50% of the chapter would be done. You can directly get into solving questions. You may not be able to solve it, but this is the level of leverage you will get once you learn it properly, because you cannot learn 39 pages, but you can learn 3 pages properly. So this summary, if you learn 3 pages, I'm saying even memorizing, even remembering, as if this is the syllabus. What if summary is the syllabus? Let's say summary is the syllabus, you don't have anything else. How deeply you would study, how precisely you would study. If you do this, this is like arriving at day-end revision. Like in day-end revision, you're getting 10 minutes of summary after reading for 10 hours. Now, what if ICA already gives you day-end revision summary? Would you not read it? This is exactly how the next step has to come. Okay. So once you do this basic understanding in the first 1 hour, most likely you can get into solving the problems. Again, you may not be able to solve it entirely, but that you'll skip or bypass a lot of steps, and you could slightly see, let's say you need some more cycle, 1 more cycle, you can quickly go through this, especially these ones. So when you talk about price adjustment policy, this is already covered in summary, but this will give you these are the various points which might influence the price adjustment. So when you look into the question, you can pay attention to this. And when you talk about all of this, so preparation can directly happen from the boxes without looking into the entire black and white text. See if you can complete only the boxes, that is good enough for you. So in 1 hour, you'll be able to understand a very core aspects of the chapter, then try to start solving problems. And in this 1 to, I would say 2 hours or 2 to 3 hour cycle, your efficiency will move from 0 to 50%, 0 to 50% in just 2-3 hours. From there, yes, consciously decide, do you want to complete it using a lecture? Do you want to complete it using a regular notebook or a reference book or whatever it is? So first, do active preparation. What I'm trying to tell you, whatever I'm trying to convey here is, first do active preparation over a chapter, then switch to passive preparation. If you do it the other way around, if you do passive preparation starting, you won't observe anything and your active preparation will become very hard. So I always start with active preparation. You'll understand only little. It is a bit exhausting for your brain, but it works like magic. How many of you understood this? Yes, for theory subjects also you can use the same. Theory subject is far more efficient. For practical, there are limitations. For theory subjects, it's super efficient. Okay. So tomorrow, please try this. You may not be able to adapt to it immediately. You may not be able to adapt to it. It is like driving a Formula 1 car. You're driving a regular car. Do it for 3 days, then you'll understand. Okay. So start with the learning objective and then go into the questions, look into the answer. When you're looking into the answer, read them as if you're doing a Q&A book, as if it is a real task, not just randomly. Then go to the first page, look at the top 1-2 pages, then see if you have the summary, and then quickly go through this colored boxes and all of that. Like what would normally take, for example, in your mind, if you need 4 hours to complete this chapter, give only 25% of that. Give only 1 hour and try to do all of this. Get into solving questions or start writing answers. So spend 70% of time in your answer solving or active preparation. Okay. So hope this has been helpful. Please try it. Now you understood it to a basic extent. Again, I'm telling you should try it at least for 3 to 5 days. If you try it only once and leave it, you'll think the method is not effective. For you to understand and have control over the method, you definitely have to try it at least for 3 to 5 days. Then I'll answer some more questions which you might receive. Hope this has been helpful. Expecting you to try this tomorrow. Okay. Thank you very much. And this is where I'm concluding.